Welcome back to another session of Wednesday Wisdom on the Educational AD Podcast. We'll be right back with today's Wednesday Wisdom guest, but we want to give a shout out to our podcast partners. We Coach, the global community of women in high school sports, along with Pay Florida Coaches. These are three great organizations that you really need to be a part of. So check out the global community of women in high school sports, Pay Florida Coaches, and We Coach. And now let's have a quick word from our podcast sponsors. We want to say thanks to Sideline Interactive, indoor scoring tables and video boards. You've heard me say that we've got a Sideline Interactive score table in our gym, and it's just fantastic. We use it for home games, of course, but we also use it for pep rallies, for signing ceremonies. It's tremendously versatile, and the customer service is just outstanding. Sideline Interactive's products also not only create revenue for your department, but they also create the ultimate game day experience for your student athletes. Go to sidelineinteractive.com and check out their products today. That's sidelineinteractive.com. We also want to say thanks to our good friends at Snap Mobile. Snap Mobile is the home company for all of their different platforms, which are designed to help you as an athletic director do your job better. Go to snapraise.com and you can check out all the different platforms that they offer: Snap Store, Snap Manage, Snap Connect, Snap Spend, and of course, Snap Raise. Snap Raise is the fundraising platform. We used it at our school with great success, and you can too. They even have a program where you get your funding before you actually start your fundraiser. I don't think anybody else does that. Go to snapraise.com to get started. That's snapraise.com. We also want to say thanks to Huddle. Go to huddle.com. Huddle is how the world sees sports. As an athletic director, I made sure our school was a Huddle school, and our coaches just love the smart cameras, the mobile apps. Of course, they love the analytics, but there's so much more, and Huddle's going to provide the tools for your teams, your coaches, and your athletes to perform at their highest level. Huddle provides a complete professional-grade solution. And if you go to huddle.com, you can join the 6 million users and turn your school into a Huddle school. That's huddle.com. We also want to thank our good friends at Wall of Fame by Vital Signs. You know, they're on a mission to bring your school's legacy to life. If you're looking for a really cool way to display your school's record boards for all the teams, for all the events, and your school's Hall of Fame, go to vitalsignswalloffame.com and check out their interactive touchscreen video consoles and their templates, which are going to help you recognize the athletic achievements of your students, both past and present. Go to vitalsignswalloffame.com and let John and Gretchen and their entire team help you display your school's proudest moments. That's vitalsignswalloffame.com. We also want to say thanks to Hometown Ticketing, the leading digital ticketing provider to schools and colleges. Go to hometownticketing.com, and they're going to show you how to sell your tickets online, not just for athletic events, but for things like school dances, your concerts, school plays, even graduation. You'll find it all at hometownticketing.com. And here's the best part. Every step of the way, you're going to have a dedicated client success manager that's providing hands-on support. That's every step of the way. Go to hometownticketing.com. Simple and easy online ticketing. We also want to say thanks to Gipper. Go to gipper.com and see how athletic directors are creating world-class marketing content for their school's social media channels. You can do it in seconds on any device, and you don't need any design experience. These days, it's all about branding and marketing your teams, your student athletes, your entire program. And Gipper is going to show you how to do that. Go to gipper.com, tell them you heard about it on the podcast, and use our code ADPOD10, and you'll get 10% off. That's gipper.com. Create custom branded content for your school's social media channel. We also want to say thanks to Final Forms, the industry leader in forms and registration. But Final Forms is so much more than that. Final Forms can help your stakeholders with reminders about policies, about physicals, and about all the forms that you'll have when you've got an athlete in the house. Final Forms can help your coaches with things like attendance and communication. And for athletic directors, Final Forms can help you with eligibility, with rosters, and all the reports that come across your desk. It's time that you talk to a team that's walked in your shoes, somebody who gets it. To take the next steps, go to finalforms.com/Jake. That's finalforms.com/Jake and get started with Final Forms. And we want to say thanks to Athletic Surveys by LifeTrack. Athletic surveys are a quick, easy, and affordable way for you to collect comprehensive data that allows you to evaluate and improve every aspect of your program. As athletic directors, we typically only hear from that 2%, that squeaky wheel parent or the student athlete who didn't have a good experience. And we need to hear from those 2% to help us address our program. But you also need to hear from the 98% that really love your program. And that's a tremendously valuable tool when you're talking with your principal, your school board, or that squeaky wheel parent. Go to athleticsurveys.com or email them at info@athleticsurveys.com to get started. If you've never used a survey to take the pulse of your parents or your student athletes, you're really missing out. Talk to the pros at Athletic Surveys by LifeTrack and let them help you take your athletic program from good to great. Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Wednesday Wisdom on the Educational AD Podcast. We have one of our original Wednesday Wisdom team members back. This is her fourth time. She's also been on the podcast, Jen Siess. Jen is a long time. She's an athlete. She's a coach. And now she is the founder of Mind to Define, which is a mental performance program. She works with athletes. She works with coaches and teams. Great program. Check out Mind to Define. But Jen Siess, welcome back to Wednesday Wisdom.
Thanks for having me again. I hadn't realized this is number 4.
Well, again, you've been on before. Always look forward to spending time with you. What do you have for our listeners today on Wednesday Wisdom?
Yeah, something that I think will be nice and short and sweet because it came from just this past Sunday. And Jake, you know about it because you and I tried to have a conversation in the middle of a very loud gym at a wrestling tournament. So while I give wrestling tournament coordinators a lot of credit, I do not know how they do it. I do not know how you get all the messaging across to everybody, get everybody in the right place at the right time. But it is pretty incredible. I didn't grow up as a wrestling family or have the opportunity to wrestle, but it has been something really interesting to learn about. And speaking of learning, what I wanted to talk about that came from Sunday comes from my observation as a former athlete, as the mother of someone who was wrestling, and as a performance mindset coach, about getting the learning with the loss and the lesson. So making sure that anytime that we have loss, right, we know that loss, right, is one of the greatest teachers. We can all talk about that. Maybe losses teach more than wins, right? But loss is hard. So I like to always make sure that when I talk to athletes about losing, right, I lost. Okay, what did you learn? So loss and learning, loss and the lesson, whatever that might be for you, however you'd like to pair that together, I think are great things to try and constantly get yourself. It's something I wish I would have done, right? Back when it was just the time that I know now that I would have known then, but the learning and the lesson. And this is why I got to see it. So I got to see a bird's eye view really kind of this wrestling tournament and watch other wrestlers with their coaches who are sometimes their parents. And then myself, who has little experience. So I really don't have a bunch of emotion in the game, but my son sure did. And sticking with L's, his name is Liam. And Liam was wrestling this weekend in an upper weight class, and he lost every match. He had to be moved up. So rolls the dice, right? So that's a tough way to go. And those competitors of his were bigger, stronger. Some of his technique was good. Some of theirs was better. He didn't get beaten by a ton, right? He did a lot of really good things. And let me tell you that is not what he wanted to hear about when he came back and sat on the bleachers. So he had 3 matches. And after each one, I got to see something that was heightened. And it was emotion. And it was how emotion blocked the lesson that was trying to occur. So as he comes off, he has a great coach. I love his coach. Does a really good job, gets down on his level, right? Kind of sits with him on the bench, puts his arms around him, totally lets Liam own his emotion, right? He's mad. He's got the headgear flipping off, right? He's angry, he's not excited. There's maybe a tear or two, thinks one of the referees missed 2 points, and all that is valid, right? We know those feelings are valid. But when emotion is heightened, whether even if it's good, sometimes, even if you've really got high emotion because you just won something, or you've got low, heightened emotion on the other side of the pendulum because it's negative, right? It's negative, it's hurts, it feels bad. What I noticed that was happening with Liam is even though he was being a good boy and he was looking his coach in the eye and he was fidgeting with his headgear, he wasn't learning anything. And he wasn't learning anything because the emotions were in the way. He was still wrapped up in that loss or that missed 2 points or whatever that was for him, that all the great things that his coach talked about teeing and breaking 90 and all these wrestling terms I don't really fully know. Honestly, Jake, I think I understood the coach better than he did at the time. And I don't have the technical. And I noticed after the first one, I said something to Liam and he goes, "What?" And I said, "Did you hear what Coach Buddy said?" And he's like, "Yeah." And I said, "What did he say?" He goes, "I don't know." He's an 11-year-old boy. So some of that's age. But I also saw that as each match went by, it got a little worse, right? A little bit more was at stake, right? There's one more that he lost and more critiques that were really good were lost on Liam. Even the praise that Buddy was giving was lost on Liam because he was too caught up in the loss and the emotion of the loss to get the lesson. So I thought, that just happened on Sunday. You and I tried to speak when I was in that gym. You heard how loud it was. So there's a lot going on outside of the athlete. And there's a whole lot more that we don't see going on inside the athlete. And so I was wanting to get your thoughts on that today too, as well.
Oh gosh. I can remember, I can remember doing it, after the fact. I can remember seeing it many times as a head coach, as an AD with younger assistants or older assistants, that too often you just need to give the kid, and this is in the heat of the battle, say a football game, basketball game, or,
Right.
wrestling, there's timeouts in wrestling. You just need to give the kid that one nugget, give them something to go back out there and put it to use. And too many times coaches and parents, they're going to give the kid a treatise on, a ton of information that's literally, if it goes in the ear, it's going to come out the other. And many times, as you said,
Right.
it's just not going in. There's just too many other things going on. So for me, as I was hearing you relate that story, I was just going back to all the times that was me on the sideline, trying to give a kid too much information instead of just saying, hey, this is what I need you to do. Go out and do it. And then again, encourage and help them utilize that, for lack of a better word, tool.
Yeah, and I think it's a good analogy. We're about to get some storms here in St. Louis, so I'm pretty sure I might have my kids home tomorrow, and the Wi-Fi is going to be very crowded if we have it. And so when I was thinking of watching Liam as he's trying to process, right, people around us yelling, right, and in a good way, right, other kids around who are either happy or upset, right, coaches giving lots of information, a lot of stuff going on. His Wi-Fi was so crowded that he was still processing, but it was slow, or he really wasn't. It was like, "Did you hear Coach Buddy tell you how great that, body slam? He actually body slammed a kid bigger than him. It was really awesome." He's like, "No." He missed it. He missed the entire thing because his system was so crowded. His Wi-Fi was crowded that it was running so slow. And so in that moment, if I could go back, right, if we could all go back as coaches and players and be able to do that and tell myself as well, remember myself on soccer sidelines trying to give much too information, giving a thesis to the player when it was just a bullet. All they needed was a bullet. Was that when you recognize, especially whichever state of heightened emotion they're in, even the good side sometimes, right? If we're so busy celebrating our goal or whatever that might be, and you have direction for those athletes when they're out there cheering before we're going to face off again, they may not be hearing you, not completely. On the athlete side, what I talked with Liam about is, hey, do you know why you did not hear that information? When we communicate, there's a sender and there's a receiver. You and I are doing it right now. I'm sending, you're receiving. Hopefully your listeners are receiving. And I said, there's responsibility on the receiver to make sure they're ready, right, to receive. And I said, you weren't ready. He's like, I know, I was mad. And I said, exactly. He's like, I don't know what to do. And I said, well, one thing you can do is you can try and hit, if you can, pause. I know you're upset. I know you're angry and you have every right. I'm not ever, Liam, going to tell you are an athlete, you can't feel a certain way, but you got to get the information. And sometimes you have to get the information quickly, right? So one thing you can do, great one, there's articles all over. This is not my idea. The in-breath. They call the in-breath the remote control for the brain. That's in an article that I can always share with you, Jake. It's great, but it's, in through the nose. We hear about that, out through the mouth. And it's not just to slow the heart rate. It actually activates parts of our limbic system that say, hey, we're going to slow down. And by the way, we need to remember this. Anybody can probably think of places in their life, in the workplace or in your personal life, where you've had heightened emotion. You look back on the conversation, you're like, I forgot half that conversation. Like, I forgot what was said or what I said. And it's not your fault. It's your nervous system's fault. Your limbic system is involved as well, from what I know. So on Liam's side of it, I said, or you could ask your coach, can I take a break real quick? You might not be able to, but if you can, see if you can take a break, go get a drink of water, go use the restroom, go walk across the gym and walk back. And then try to get your central nervous system, eased. And if you can't in the moment, breathe, breathe and listen. On the coach's side of it, if I was able to talk to Coach Buddy at the time, it was awesome. I would have said, if you can give the athlete, just like you said, Jake, if you can give him a minute, sit down on the bench, get a drink of water, then we'll talk. Sometimes we can't do that. In between those periods of 1 minute, all he's got is 15 seconds to reset. And so in those things, just like you said, a bullet will do much more than a wordy thesis. And I'm guilty as charged. So those were kind of the lessons that literally came out of a life experience this weekend. And I thought in that moment, you got to put loss with lesson, a loss with learning, and make sure that the message is being received, because those losses taught him lessons if he's willing to receive them and if he's ready.
No, absolutely. And again, just another, underlining emphasis on the importance of mental performance training. Physically, he was jazzed. The adrenaline was there. He was ready to go out and do battle again. But that calming, certainly part of the mental aspects. The coach was telling him, you got to do this, you got to do that, but he wasn't ready to process that. So again, for me, another underlining the importance of mental performance training. And I remember hearing this as a very young coach. I don't know if it was my first year, maybe a second year, but the wise old head coach had one of his favorite sayings that I am still using here 40 plus years later. He would always say, winning conceals, losing reveals. And, whether it's that individual wrestling battle or the team battle on the soccer pitch or the basketball floor, if you're winning, things are going well, and you might just be dominating through no factor of coaching or talent. But when you're getting beat, when you're losing, it's going to show you very quickly, the things that you need to work on to get better. So that just popped into my head while you were sharing that.
Yeah. And, a great thing was shared with somebody that I'm connected to on LinkedIn today. He's in mindset performance with the Arizona Diamondbacks. His name is Zach Brandon. You can find him out there. He shares some really great things. And he shared, as a football player, a tight end, the name's escaping me right now, but he talks about how he himself, on the football field, right? You've got things going on. You can't always come over and spend time speaking with, a coach and calming down. He said he uses, he's got tape, I think, on his wrist, and he has a red button drawn on it, and he taps it, and it's a reset button. It's a reset button just to try and physically and mentally connect to that. Hey, I got to reset right now. That emotion's going to be there. That's not going to go away anytime soon. But maybe we can just hit pause or reset on it for a short enough period of time to receive that message, right? To receive whatever the other players want to do, the coaches want to do, what you next to get to the next step, you got to know what it is. And to know what it is, you have to hear it. And so part of that's on the athlete, right? You have to get yourself in a state to work on that. And then also as a coach, and for all of us too, right? We all were having workplaces. As you were as an athletic director, I'm sure you dealt with coaches who had come out of high emotion after, state championships, wins and losses. And it applies to us as adults as well.
Absolutely.
That
Mm-hmm.
when we are in heightened emotion, we have to know that and know I'm not going to be hearing anything right now. And if we're trying to help a person in heightened emotion, especially when it's a negative one, they're probably not going to receive a message, especially if it's really long or very detailed, as I have been guilty of before after game huddles too. I can't tell you the number of things that were probably missed in that after the game, before the next practice, that probably could have waited to the next practice.
Again, guilty myself. I wish I would have been smart enough to have that reset button as a coach and as an AD many times. And in life, we all need that reset button. Okay.
Yeah. If we could have an undo button, that would be awesome too. But nobody's built one up.
You and I are going to have to work on developing that. Okay.
That's right.
Jen, always great to spend time with you. And again, for our listeners, Jen Siess, Mind to Define is her website. Jen, if one of our listeners wants to reach out, pick your brain a little bit. And listeners, I certainly encourage you to do so because you've got a great resource here. What's the best way they can get in touch with you?
You bet. It's Jen, one N. That's a thing that anymore, two N. So it's one N, Jen at mindtodefine.com. Mind to Define is on the web. And then I'm active on social medias as well.
Yep. She's on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Jen Siess, Mind to Define. Thanks so much for sharing again on Wednesday Wisdom.
Thanks again.
For listeners, we do this every week and we upload the Zoom videos to the Educational AD Podcast YouTube channel. We appreciate you listening. Come back next Wednesday for more Wednesday Wisdom and just about every day on the Educational AD Podcast. We'll see you next time. Always great time with Jen Siess, Mind to Define. Check out that website. We also want to give a shout out to our podcast partners. We Coach, the global community of women in high school sports, and the Florida Coaches Coalition. And before we go, please stay with us one more time as we give our sponsors a shout out. Athletic Surveys by LifeTrack. Go to athleticsurveys.com. Get the data that's going to help you promote and, if necessary, defend your programs with the great feedback from the parents who really love your programs. That's athleticsurveys.com. Sideline Interactive indoor scoring tables and video boards, one of the best purchases I ever made as an athletic director. Go to sidelineinteractive.com for more information. Also want to thank Wall of Fame by Vital Signs. The coolest way possible to display your school's record boards and your school's Hall of Fame. Go to vitalsignswalloffame.com. I want to say thanks to Final Forms. You're looking for a platform that can help your parents, all your stakeholders, your coaches, and you as an AD. Go to finalforms.com/Jake. I promise you'll come away very impressed. I want to thank Snap Mobile, their entire suite of platforms, including the fundraising platform, SnapRaise. You can't go wrong. Does any other fundraising platform give you your money before you start your fundraiser? I don't think so. Go to snapraise.com to get started. I want to thank Huddle. Whether you're a coach or an AD, Huddle's got the tools to help your athletes and your teams perform better. Go to huddle.com, turn your school into a Huddle school. I want to thank Hometown Ticketing, the leading digital ticketing provider to schools and colleges. Start selling your tickets online for athletic events, dances, concerts, plays, even graduation. That's hometownticketing.com. And we want to thank Gipper. Branding and marketing is where it's at. Gipper can help you create custom content, world-class content for your school's social media channels. Go to Gipper.com. Tell them you heard about it on the podcast. Use our code ADPOD10 and you'll get 10% off. That's Gipper.com. Thanks again for tuning in to Wednesday Wisdom. We'll see you next time.